Hello, and welcome to episode 190 of Reanimated. My name is Stuart. This is a podcast about zombies and things undead. And joining me is the invaluable H.A. Conrad. Hello.
Hello.
H.A. is in Brooklyn, home of the cheese Danish. What is Brooklyn the home of?
It is the home of Captain America.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I like that Spider-Man is from Queens and
Captain America is from Brooklyn.
Yeah, it adds a little more interest because you could just say they're both from New York, but they're actually from specific. I mean, Brooklyn and Queens are also large areas. They're not really that specific, but it's fairly specific.
True.
Anyway, digressing immediately as the podcast begins. Hello and welcome.
It was a nice digression. I like this.
Cool. Well, there's no superheroes from where I live, other than I don't know, like Winery Man.
That's a good superhero to be. Especially if you're friends with him. Rescuing people from bad Chardonnays.
Indeed, and White Zinfandel.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to dig in this week to a fresh review session of The Walking Dead. I had realized that we hadn't done a Walking Dead season since the beginning of first quarter of 2018. And so I thought, and really, watching the first half of the new season of Walking Dead made me really want to talk about that. And we're not caught up enough to do it, and so I've been pushing HA to...
I'll admit, you were dragging me kicking and screaming for this one, because I just dread watching the season again. It's so bad.
It was bad the first time. It's going to be painful this time, too, doubly so, because we know that it's going to be... Yeah. So we're in for some slog, some work, but we'll hammer through it. No stone left unturned. And here, so yeah, Walking Dead season 8, episodes 1 and 2 are for today. And we got a little bit of news to kick off before that. So AJ, why don't you go ahead with the first one? Do you want to actually start with a variety piece?
Yeah, sure. It wasn't just in Variety, though. Apologies, because Variety has all the pop-up ads. But basically, it's kind of nice because we've seen sort of a dearth in announcements for new zombie films of late, and this is actually a German zombie film called Ever After or Endzeit, and the distribution company is Juno Films. It seems to be taking the same path that Anna and the Apocalypse did, where it's going to basically debut in some of these film festivals, and then it will be released probably in a similar fashion, I would imagine, like a smaller release in the U.S. And worldwide, and hopefully it'll make it out to you, Stuart. So far, no luck with Anna and the Apocalypse, other than 57 miles away in Bonnie, San Francisco. Mm-hmm. But the premise of the story looks kind of interesting to me. It looks like a female-centric cast, and it seems as if those are the two main protagonists in this. And it's based in Germany, so they have to get from one city to another, and both the cities are the only cities that have not fallen, at least within Germany, that we know of. So that's what we know about it. I know nothing more than really that about it. There looks like there's a couple of photos of it, and after seeing like this stuff, I'm gonna see if there's some trailers and stuff online, or anything, but I think it's kind of early days yet for that. But anyway, excited to look at it and to see this one, and I'm also excited to see that like more female-centric zombie films are coming out. So,
and I'm excited that it's also a German project, and because I think we've reviewed one other German zombie film, and it was pretty good. Rambach, I don't know if you recall.
Yes, I do.
This one, the basic synopsis and this overland travel seems like a pretty cool way to use the backdrop as a metaphor for the Cold War or whatever it is they're going to do. So awesome! I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. And then in other news, we had some weird news this week.
Yeah.
The weirdest thing, and this is Fear the Walking Dead based. The weirdest news is that Troy Otto is coming back to Fear the Walking Dead in some form.
Okay, so I read this and I did a double take and I reread it because I didn't really believe that that's what they were saying. I was like, are you kidding me? They kill off Madison, they bring this guy back? Are you kidding me? And so I still admit I have a little bit of hope that maybe that somebody will give in and bring Madison back since they never actually showed her death on screen.
They showed this guy's death on
They
screen.
showed this guy's death, so I'm like, I don't know what they're doing here unless they're bringing him back. You know, my thought was maybe they're bringing him back as like a character that other people are seeing as hallucinations, which they've often done in The Walking Dead. I don't know. I don't understand. Anyway, so apparently he's coming back.
Just
And
relive this with me for a moment. He admits that he caused the downfall of the ranch, I think is
Yep.
what he did. Madison hits him in the head with a hammer pretty hard,
Yep.
and they leave his body next to a bunch of C4.
Yep.
Okay, maybe there is an avenue for escape there if he really wasn't killed and was just rendered unconscious by a blow to the head with a hammer.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I guess that's where they're going. But I'm saying he manages to come back from that, Madison can come back from Zombie Stadium.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there, and I would be very happy if that was the case. I really do miss Kim Dickinson's character. I miss her interactions with the other members of the cast, specifically Strand, and I really would like to see that happen, and I hope they make it so, because this is just... and of all the characters to bring back, come on, Troy. Anyway.
I mean, what's also funny about this is that of all the remaining cast members, it's just Alicia who even knows who Troy Otto was. She was the only person left on the cast who was at the ranch, because Strand never was. Luciana was there for like one day and then left.
Right.
So they bring, and even if they're saying Daniel Salazar is also coming back, which is good news. It's like a little bit inexplicable why they decided not to write him into season 4.
Mm-hmm.
But and then so part of where this news is coming from, and it actually came out last week, and then Dave Erickson was responding to an angry fan on Twitter saying Scott Gimple is going to destroy what's left of your the characters you developed in form of Troy Otto and Daniel Salazar. And Erickson writes back, I'm just happy that these actors are coming back to the show, and this is great, and I really hope that Mad Dog,
Yeah.
was it Crazy
And
Dog?
Walker.
Walker
Crazy
and
Dog.
Crazy Dog.
Crazy Dog.
Walker and Crazy Dog come back too, which I would be happy to see those guys come back, although they were a little bit, they're gray area kind of characters, which is perfect for Walking Dead. You never know if they're going to be good guys or bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we were both a little miffed to see them just kind of wander off towards the mountains without really a satisfactory conclusion to their story. So I also thought it was just funny that Dave Erickson is responding to
Angry tweets.
to angry people from the internet who are saying, in some ways rightfully so, the new showrunner or direction for Fear the Walking Dead has ruined everything.
Well, and it also sounds like he wasn't the only one. We're not the only people that were upset about the Madison send-off.
I'm sorry. Have you read Eric Kane's
Yes.
columns about it? Yeah.
Yes.
No, we are definitely not the only ones. Anyway, so that's out there and pretty interesting. I guess we'll see what happens with Troy and the return of Troy. It seems completely unlikely, but unlikely is one of the things that this show can do.
Yeah, it's true. My guess is that they're going to bring him back, to your point, since Alicia's the only one who knows who he is. I bet he's going to infiltrate the group or somehow meet members of the group without Alicia, and then there will be this big reveal when she sees him or something like that. That's my guess, is that it's going to be a little bit of a, my guess is that like Morgan or somebody runs into him when they're out and about, and, he's doing crazy stuff because he's Troy. So.
Yeah. Unless he's, him and Morgan could have some stuff in common, right?
Right.
Except that Troy never seemed that insane. He just seemed like a psychopath.
Right.
Anyway, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. In the meantime, we have some other bridges to cross in the form of episodes 1 and 2 of season 8 of The Walking Dead.
I mean, I was trying to play this out as long as I possibly could to not have to talk about this, but now we can.
We made
talk
it 10 minutes, but yeah, I'm
I
sorry.
know. Let's do it.
So this first one is called Mercy. and it's the Power team directed by Greg Nicotero, written by Gimple. It came out October 22nd, 2017, and it begins this really. I don't know if you went back and watched the end of season 7 or relived any of that.
I didn't.
Yeah, I re-listened to some of our coverage of it, and we kind of despised the last 4 episodes of that season.
Well, yes,
and so,
that's why I did not relive it.
Yeah. This season starts with
although I have to
so many
say,
things.
season 7 took on a new meaning to me after I saw season 8. So I was a lot more friendly toward it after watching season 8,
Yeah.
admittedly. But anyway, it starts out with, some weird dreamlike sequences which involve Rick, and
these close-ups.
Yeah.
God, both of these episodes have these crazy close-ups. The first one has this close-up with the weird reflected light in his red-rimmed eyes.
Yes.
And the dreams, yes, of him being a really old guy.
Yep.
Which, I mean, all of which viewed from through the prism of knowing how the rest of the season goes. Mm-hmm. And, how season 9 has gone. This was apparently them writing it in a way, is my understanding, to let Andrew Lincoln leave the show in season 8.
Well, that's cool.
There was some version of events where they were going to kill off Rick Grimes' character during the end battle of this season, and so these flashbacks, or the flashbacks of him sitting under the tree, I think you don't really actually get to see where he is because it's always so close up, had something to do with that. But he drew out his exit, and I think this was just down to the power of Andrew Lincoln.
Yep.
And his ability to be like, you know what, I'm not going to leave you just yet. I'm going to stick it out for a couple more. The guy had some juice.
Yeah, he did. I mean, my God. Got to give him kudos and props for that.
But from an artistic perspective, these scenes are all meaningless and garbage.
Yep.
To put it nicely, these are garbage, meaningless scenes that do nothing to push the story forward. And both of these episodes are kind of not full of these, but are both peppered with these like slow motion close up face shots that just, I don't know what you're trying to do, but you're just pissing me off.
Yep. And not only of him, but of other people. And It feels like they kind of do this. And if you if you look at the amount of dialogue within these 2 episodes and the amount of times that they're doing this, and they kind of do this effect where there's like some weird like montaging-ish type stuff with these scenes, they make up a fair amount of both episodes. Like a really large amount, and it's kind of strange. It's almost like, guys, what was going on here? Were you like, I really just don't want to write dialogue this week. Let's just do a montage. I don't know. It's very strange, and it was off-putting and noticeable the first time I watched it. This time it was more funny because I remembered this and I was noticing it so much. And I also think that they were playing with time a little bit because you're not quite certain what the timeline of events is because of these sort of strange like dream sequences and things like that. So that I think is that's deliberate to some extent and makes sense in the context that if they did think that he was going to be leaving the show, they were trying to lead up to something, but then they didn't do that. So this is just odd. Yep. But we do have the continued theme in both of these episodes, and they do it like one of the things that I really sometimes just frustrates me about the way that the show present, especially in this season, but it's happened in others, and we see this in Fear the Walking Dead too, is they kind of come upon this theme that they're trying to hit you over the head with. For example, in Fear the Walking Dead, it's like, I know who you are. I know who you are. And they say this like 10,000 times. In this one, it's not about me. And this is all the Rick, And they say this, they have it between Rick and Morgan. They have it between Rick and Jesus. They have it between Rick and Maggie.
Gabriel.
Yeah. And Gabriel. And it's like, it's like a continued theme here, and it's like the reason why I dislike it so much is that it treats the audience like they're stupid. It's like, okay, we get it. We get what
And
you're trying to say here.
nobody actually talks this way.
No, no. And if you're in the middle of something like that, I mean, have a normal conversation with him, or like show a normal conversation with between Rick and Gabriel, or Rick and Morgan, or Rick and Maggie, or whatever. But we don't need to have this continual reminder. Like, it's ridiculous and really annoying after a while. It's like, yeah, I get it, dude. It's not about you. It's just, I found it entirely frustrating.
These two episodes are frustrating in so many different ways. In a way, it's great. There's a lot of diversity of annoying stuff going on. Yeah. These are both very action-heavy episodes. I love action films. I love action plots in shows and movies that are not action films or TV shows. But this is action done in like not a great way. There are parts of it that are okay. Honestly, the plan to take the sanctuary out is okay. It's a little overly complex,
thin, but okay.
So their plan is to bring a herd or two of zombies to the sanctuary while they go and take care of the satellite bases. That's a solid plan. The way that they can get, the thing is, they can get a herd of zombies there without all of this like grandstanding. They could do it in a way. They've led herds in ways that didn't involve exploding barrels.
Well, and a ton of explosives. And the problem with that is that, so you have this herd coming. Well, guess what? They come from other places too when they hear those kinds of noises. Yeah. So there's that. Like, you would totally lose control of the herd you have, because I feel like others would come in to join them in a way like that. You wouldn't be able to direct them. And we've seen them lead herds before with just Daryl kind of like leading them on the motorcycle, because they're just following him basically.
There is an argument to be made that they want to keep everybody inside the sanctuary while they're getting the herd into position, and that's kind of the role that the aluminum
explosives
roof people are doing. But also, so it's not a terrible plan. It's just a little bit It's wasteful because, well, these two episodes are super wasteful in terms of ammunition. Like, they literally shoot in the air. That's like they knock on the door by shooting in the air 3 times. Everybody, and sure, it'll get somebody's attention, but probably just one person shooting would have done that. There's also a few different cuts of the speech that the 3 leaders make, and I found it tiresome. And also, honestly, I found Ezekiel's constant speech. He's making speeches all the time.
Yeah.
And that gets really tired in these 2 episodes also. But at one point, they cut back to the speech after having gone to the sanctuary and done their thing, and then pulled back, and then they like cut back to the speech, which I guess meant going back in time. And I was like, wait, they're doing another speech?
I know. I thought the same thing.
But then I was like, oh no, this is the same speech. But the speech is dumb, and like, why do people feel like they need to get speeched at?
Right.
Like, I would rather see them looking at sand tables and being like, all right, your team's going to go here, we're going to do this. And because it's a really complicated plan, and frankly, they should all be working on the plan rather than motivational speech making.
Right.
The motivation should be clear at this point in the season.
But my thought, it was like the reason why they kept doing it was to show the different factions united, to show who the leaders were, to show Maggie coming into her own, and also to just get more screen time with some of those main characters together, though I didn't think that it was the best use of having them all together. So it just felt like, agreed, like that speech, I was like, oh my God, are we going back to another cut of that speech? What is going on here? It was definitely tiresome and not a very well written speech either. So yay.
One of the positives for this episode and the next one is highlighting of really minor characters who have speaking roles,
or non-speaking roles, such as Shiva.
So Tobin gets certainly in the second episode gets more screen time. Francine, similarly, Eric, and then people from the kingdom like Eduardo, Alvaro, actually. Either way, so that's one of the only but this is also this whole like series of episodes. Not to get them getting ahead of the recap. It serves also to trim all that extra meat off of the cast too.
True, and also,
this,
I mean, we do have a surprise, which I guess we can talk about the surprise reappearance of somebody later on, but that was a highlight of this too.
That is a positive, but to get to it, let's
it took a long time to get to it.
Let's focus.
So.
Let's try to focus on this first episode.
Yep.
So they go and they knock on the door of the sanctuary. Negan walks outside with all of his top lieutenants, and nobody shoots them.
Nope, nobody. They just sit there. They just sit there and look at them from behind their shielding, which it's like, what was the freaking purpose of the shielding if you guys aren't just going to take action? You've been after Negan this entire time. He is the key. He's the main person organizing all of this, and you're just going to sit there and let him talk to you? You all had a clean shot at him.
And then when Rick finally does open fire and everybody opens fire, they still don't hit anybody who's standing there in the open with no cover, and they all have to run back into the same door.
Yep.
It is an absurd... I mean, it's an absurd element.
Yep. Yes, it is. And, I mean, like, this is, I mean, honestly, this is why the whole season is so frustrating, because this is basically a whole season of this.
Yeah, and I think you kind of get we're already a whole season of this fighting in, and kind of we're hoping at the confrontation outside of Alexandria at the end of last season that's when they would have killed Negan. It wasn't, and frankly, they're following the chronology of the books still.
Yeah.
That's kind of this is how it goes down in the books. So you could lay some of this blame at Robert Kirkman's door. But
okay, you could, but you could also set this scenario in a way that wasn't so ridiculous and obvious. And they have taken license with certain things from changing things in the book. So I think that's a little bit of a cop-out. And I also, like, within both of these episodes, you see characters making decisions again, and I understand that it's a little bit of the morality versus like, what's this world going to be like? What decisions are these characters making? But the problem I have with this is that, we're talking about groups of people that have been under the thumb of the saviors for, like, they know what they are capable of. They know the savagery. They know the people that have died because of them. And some of the decisions that they make, and they continue to make, put everybody else in jeopardy. So it's like, that is something that, and I mean, it's one of the most frustrating things I found about this season. I mean, big spoiler alert, guys. Many, many, many people get a chance to, like, kill off Negan, and they don't do it. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know, like, or at least, you know what I'm saying. Like, it's just this continued frustration where I just don't believe that this is how things would go. And I get that you have to keep the plot going and you have to keep the big bad. You have to keep Negan's storyline going. But I also feel that there were ways to do this that weren't so frustrating for the audience. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was impossible, but I just feel like there were ways to do this that weren't so obviously, like, it wouldn't be so obvious to take out this character. You could have made him a little bit more invincible, I suppose, so that you don't feel like these characters are just kind of, like, spinning their wheels on screen. And that's kind of what I felt for most of this season.
Yeah.
Sorry, rant over.
No, this is our opportunity to rant about these two episodes. This one ends with Father Gabriel getting locked into a trailer with Negan. He has a machine gun. Negan doesn't. Again, he doesn't shoot Negan.
Yep.
Another example of...
That was what I was referencing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They had left Michonne and Carl and a few other people at Alexandria, and Carl is showing much more independence. Michonne tells him that he's responsible for the defense of Alexandria. This is cool. This is good. And then he goes outside the wire. He's getting gas or something. And this is actually even before. Mm-hmm. I don't even know where this is in the chronology, because then Rick is there and
Yeah,
what the hell's going on.
this is pretty early. But
They meet,
we see a much older like Carl's like solidly into teenage years at this point.
but this is difficult, right? Because they've told us, we've learned that it
Yeah.
was 630 days from day one of days gone by to around mid-season of when Rick is looking all red-rimmed eyed under that tree. It's like 630 days. Carl
Cannot
clearly
possibly be true for
he,
Carl's timeline
he
anyway.
clearly ages 7 or 8 years in that
Yep.
time as an actor as Chandler Riggs. But fine, just suspension of disbelief. But yeah, Chandler Riggs is like graduating high school. He's 18. I think he started when he was 10.
Oh my god, that's so amazing though.
That is crazy.
It's
And
pretty cool.
this was also the 100th episode of The Walking Dead, which is generally something that I think most fans don't really give a crap about. 100th episode, big whoop. But in this one, there was some interesting stuff at this gas station. Apparently, they were basically doing a shot-for-shot recreation of the gas station scene from the pilot with Rick,
Yep.
except this time it's Carl.
Yep.
And they reintroduced the same actor playing the girl. Did you realize it was her?
I did not.
So yeah, so that's her, that's the little girl that the actor that Rick killed as a little baby girl zombie is now a teenage girl in this scene, and she kind of starts walking into the gas station in a night. Yeah, it's kind of like a night dress. Towards the end of the scene, after they've run off Sadiq.
Nope, I did not at the time realize that it was her. Of course, later I read about it and I'm like, oh, that was kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah, I had no idea, but yeah, that was pretty cool. That's like all I got for positivity for this episode, though.
Yeah.
I'm like, every time as I'm watching this, I'm just like, all right, it could all end in this episode, and we could be done. We could just be done with it.
Yeah, but not. I will say the other interesting thing that I found was that the way Carol looks in these two episodes is much more militant than she has in the past. She really does have this level of confidence that, we've seen Carol in various states, but in this, she's like very much like no nonsense, much more. I just feel like overall in her interactions with Daryl or interactions with Ezekiel, she is very, very, I don't want to say Sarah Connors, but that's kind of how I feel like she is in this, like Terminator style. And, Ezekiel's very Ezekiel, but, so that's kind of an interesting switch that I noticed from the get-go compared to what she's been, hiding in her house, et cetera, before. So, and feels a lot more vulnerable, or she feels a lot less vulnerable from the last time we saw her in season 7.
This episode was also dedicated to the stuntman who had passed away on set, John Bernecker, which I thought was a good touch.
Yep. Also, George Romero.
Yeah, George Romero. I didn't realize how George Romero, I think, died in the summer of 2017, right?
Yep.
So let's put Mercy behind us.
Yeah,
and
Mercy.
Move on to The Damned. The Damned is worse than Mercy.
Yes, it is.
We have several parallel plots moving forward, you could say. We leave Gabriel and Negan in the trailer. We don't go back to them in this episode. That's fine. This is the problem with the cast being as big as it is.
Yep.
And so you have Ezekiel working on his target with his kingdom troops. You've got Morgan, Tara, and Jesus working on the satellite station again. It's kind of weird that they go back there. And Aaron and Eric, I'm trying to think. I think Rick is nearby where they are.
I think so.
It's the geography on that is hard to figure out because, yeah. So they all have the 3 parallel assaults going on. I think the Eric and Aaron one is probably the most annoying.
Yep.
Their plan is to use their metal shield cars. They drive up, they pin some saviors who, we had a few shots of the saviors just in their like normal everyday life. And again, even though we've never met these saviors, they're just super dicks. They're like being mean to each other. No, shut up.
Yep, a lot of that going on.
But they get them pinned into this courtyard. There's like 20 of them in there. And this fight goes on for the entire episode.
Yeah.
And the amount of space that they have to play with is, I don't know, 30 feet.
Yeah, and it's kind
It's
of like when you keep going back to it, you're like, why are we back here again? Because
how
they don't
how is this
really,
still going on?
and they
And
don't
it
really show anything helpful. That moves. I mean, eventually they do, but like it takes a really long time to get there in a way that doesn't
I
make
don't think
sense.
this fight does not get resolved by the end of this episode.
No, it doesn't get resolved, but I mean, they're showing some things that like it's just kind of strange.
Their plan is to lock them in until the ones that they've killed turn into zombies, because we know that
Correct.
saviors can't fight zombies. So it's a pretty bad plan. I mean, it's a fine plan. The problem is that it plays out like an episode of Naked Gun,
Yep.
where there's two people on either side of a garbage can shooting at each other, and and of course they're all shooting on full auto, which you know how I feel about that.
I
But
know.
so I felt like this was an absurd fight scene. I think it's badly choreographed action, and I think that it takes. Can you imagine how many blank rounds they went through for this episode?
Oh yeah, and then also this is, definitely within this episode is that weird montaging as well. So
Yeah,
in addition to this useless fight scenes rather, you also have all the montaging. So it's just like it doesn't it just kind of sits there, and you see a lot of useless action. I also feel the same way about the whole storming of the communication center, the satellite center, where they kind of like go into the building. They have like this big plan, and Morgan does his weird, like, I'm not going to die kind of sage thing, which is strange. And, they go in there, and I mean, we remember what happened last time, and that this whole thing happened. And even just how they kind of like take out the people there, the stuff and this is one of the more frustrating pieces, is the whole thing between Jesus and the Savior and Tara. And, this is another one of those repeated things. This is not what we do. And it's
They really should have all been on the same page before they attacked this.
This is
place.
confusing to me, because it's like, okay, wait, you guys plotted these very complex takeover scenarios, and you didn't talk about this ahead of time, because this is weird. And basically what it comes down to is that Jesus doesn't want to kill the saviors if they put their hands up. For some reason, that means that they're not going to plot against them ever again, and that seems like a very strange thing to think. And I mean, we've seen this from Jesus. We definitely have, like, this is the whole Dale scenario. This is the whole Dale problem, is like, do we do this versus take them out? And does that make us as bad as the saviors? And this is the debate that they keep hitting you over the head with all the time. But in this case, it doesn't make any sense, because it's like, we've heard the name of this guy, and his name is escaping me, of course, right now, Dean. And we know he is one of the people that is definitely within the, like, Negan. He's done some bad stuff, that guy. And then, even after he almost kills Jesus was like, oh, we'll just tie him up. I just, all of it I found and the second time around, already knowing that this was going to happen, I still wanted Tara to kill him, to kill that guy, and I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I still had this weird little hope that it was going to happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is just the ongoing issue I have with this whole thing.
I think of the three parallel fighting bits of this episode, I probably like this one the most. But, that's not saying that it was good.
But it's like week, right? Like, it's not like you're into it.
Sure.
It's like, this is the best case scenario out of the three fighting scenarios, right?
Let me sum it up in one scene. The scene where Morgan is with his two red shirts, and they're looking at that door for half an hour.
Oh,
and then
I know.
They finally open the door. The two red shirts both have automatic weapons.
But
Morgan doesn't. They open the door. They shoot the man who's inside the door. And then four guys walk around a corner and line up ready to shoot. And it takes 3 heartbeats. The two guys with the two red shirts never fire a shot.
Not at all. Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, what were you standing there for? Or, maybe they were just frozen with fear. And why Morgan doesn't pick up their weapons, I don't understand either. But he does go on like a pretty intense murder spree.
He does.
And I'm kind of, I think that it's valuable to see him so fall off the wagon with like he's all about killing people now.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting into weird like twitchy face Morgan territory again.
Yep.
So you know that it's not going to end well, and we talked about that at the end of last season with
Mm-hmm.
our inability as an audience to keep riding this roller coaster with Lenny James of guilt and
Mm-hmm.
recovery. But yeah, the satellite station was way better than the garbage courtyard fight. And then King Ezekiel, the end of last episode had ended with a lookout throwing a smoke grenade like 20 feet away from King Ezekiel and Carol. This episode their story begins with them, Ezekiel and Carol, both lying on the floor, dazed because a smoke grenade went off, which has absolutely no concussive power whatsoever.
Nope.
And it landed 20 feet away, but somehow the power of the smoke knocked them down. And...
Right. Yet we have seen Carol survive like massive explosions and like I was like, what is going on here? Like, did something happen with this? I mean, I will tell you, the first time that I watched this, I thought something else had happened. Like they had
What did we
laced the
miss?
smoke with something. I just couldn't
Yeah.
figure it out. And then I was like, oh no, it's just bad writing.
I mean, if this was an organic anti-intruder measure, like, hey, let's put like 30 zombies inside this one thing, and then we'll throw a smoke grenade, and that'll take care. I mean, that's actually pretty good as far as organic security goes.
True.
But I don't think that's what it was designed to be. It was just this one nameless, faceless savior who throws a grenade and then eludes Ezekiel's group for the entire episode until Shiva eats him. But that takes the entire episode for them to,
Yeah,
get
to
to
get
that
there.
point. But
And
we
you
do
know,
get some more
I-
speeches.
I almost felt like somebody was like, you know what would be really great is if we let the tiger just like out of the cage. Let's see the tiger in action. And then it was sort of like led to all this. It was, I do think it was pretty funny that Ezekiel was like, well, I feel bad about it. I feel bad that Shiva ate this man. That was kind of funny.
You probably don't want Shiva to get too much of a taste for human flesh. She
Well,
lives-
it seems like a bad idea, right?
yeah, as long as you keep her well fed. But yeah, as I think we've talked about, tigers eat something like 50 pounds of meat a day, and how the hell has the kingdom
How are
managed
they
to keep
keeping
her
them
alive?
satiated? I know, right?
Maybe they can feed her zombies, but that's probably gonna make her sick after a while. I mean, although season 9 does also go into some of this territory again. Let me do the check-in on HA's ability to watch season 9 of The Walking Dead. How you doing?
Oh, this is my Christmas. This will be my Christmas holiday wish.
Okay, I'll check in again in January. We'll see where you are.
No, I will have finished it by then. I have a good chunk of time off, so I'm excited about it. I will tell you though, I am like, I don't know, like watching this makes me like, I don't want to watch season 9, but I guess I will.
I understand. Obviously, this is really painful. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm going to tell you,
Does it get better? Does it get
just
better?
push through it. Push through it. It's a whole new showrun. I mean, it's Angela Kang. It's
I know, and I
there's a
like
lot of different
her.
stuff going on. So finally, we've got the Rick and Daryl element of this episode. They are going into some building looking for a weapons stash. And I think, as I mentioned, that they are like maybe on the other side of the block from where Aaron and Eric are.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe unclear.
Because I only think that because there is a stairwell that is locked. But they only run into 2 saviors in this whole
Right.
building. Because maybe they're all outside fighting in the courtyard. But it's really hard to tell. They go in with like 3 or 4 other Alexandrians or wherever those people are from, but we never see them again after they enter the building.
Nope.
We only see Rick and Daryl, who manage to find one another and almost kill each other. And then we have this really protracted hand-to-hand fight between Rick and a guy who's dressed just like Rick.
Yep,
So they're obviously working on some
those
imagery
parallels.
here.
Yep.
Rick finally he's won the fight, and then he decides to just go one step further and impale the guy on a shelf like thingy that sticks out of the wall. And there's all this writing on the wall of like no guns and grace, and and he finds this baby. His name is Gracie, and this guy has been painting animals on the wall. Like, this guy's father of the year.
Yep.
Until Rick comes along and murders him.
Yeah, but also, this is one of those frustrating things. The guy had many scenarios to tell him what was happening, that there was a kid back there, that he was just there. He didn't do that. And it's like, dude, come on. If you know your life's in danger, like, my feeling is, if you know that you've got a kid back there and that this guy is got, like, take the chance. You don't want to, like, take the chance that the guy will have some mercy on you or whatever. You're not, like, I just felt like he would have said something, and the fact that he didn't is really weird.
Yeah.
He just kept saying no weapons and whatever, and I don't know, it was just a very strange thing, and to me a very sloppy plot device. So,
and it goes on like everything in this
really
episode.
Long time.
This should have been a 20-minute episode. They should have just been like, you know how sometimes we do an hour-long episode? We're going to do the opposite today. 20 minutes.
Done and done.
Yeah. We'll have one or two commercial breaks. They'll be really short, and then you can go on with your life. But no, instead we are treated to endless fights and over the garbage can shootouts.
But the reappearance of a character we have not seen for a while.
And Oscar. But Rick calls him Morales because he only calls him by his last name. Like, what other character on this show is only called by his last name? Maybe Negan is a last name.
Negan, maybe, yeah.
Unless Negan is his first name, and sure, I've known Egans.
True.
But he's like, your name is Morales. You were in Atlanta. And so Oscar Morales, played by Anthony Lopez, is there to be like, yeah, that was a long time ago.
Times have changed.
The saviors are on their way back. Your plan, it's over. It's all over, Rick. And that's where we end the episode. Although we've had also, and then, right after that, though, we get more of these like slow motion close-ups of the lead characters running or walking or whatever it is they're doing. That mean nothing.
Carol looking badass, you know.
This king, Ezekiel, is smiling slightly as he's walking or riding a horse. It's hard to tell because it's close right up on his face.
Yeah, I like to imagine that he's riding a tiger, but probably not.
That would be nice. Yeah, this was a bad episode, and I should like it because it should speak to my 12-year-old self who likes explosions and violence, and it does not live up to the promise of what an action scene or several action scenes should provide.
Nope. Oh, and one thing we were forgetting to mention is that Gregory made a reappearance in the first episode. I mean, and I just don't, like, I'm kind of, like, to me, like, that whole thing where, like, he's speaking for Hilltop again, it seems so strange to me. It seems weird to me that Negan and everybody wouldn't know that he was on the outs, right? Like, they've kept they have informants as well. Like, they're not stupid. And I felt like that was a very odd thing to include in there, but basically just as a way to get him back in on the action, I suppose. But I thought that was just really annoying, and I think it's annoying that Gabriel would trust him or try to rescue him. I mean, I guess, I don't know.
Well, Gabriel, he's a priest.
I know, he's always looking for redemption.
Chip on his shoulder. But it's always so much fun to watch Xander Berkeley strut as Gregory, as Gregory, and when he does his little hand on the hips thing, and Negan keeps prompting him to add
things,
or was it Simon? It's just so much fun to watch, and probably my favorite part of these two episodes was watching Xander Berkeley do that in front of.
He plays that part very well, so I have no issue with that. I just have an issue with the saviors not being aware of this guy, like this guy's total lack of power and fall from grace. Yeah. So.
And I like that he just gets kicked down a flight of stairs.
I know, they're like, "We're done with you. You're down the stairs." So that was all right. We got to look at for the bright spots in these two episodes, I suppose.
There aren't many, but yeah. So this episode is one of the lowest rated shows. It's the lowest for the series since season.
Well, are you
2.
Surprised? Really? Come on.
Since season 2, though. Yeah, that's long time past. The next episodes are going to be. What is it? Monsters. Another Greg Nicotero. This one, by the way, was directed by Rosemary Rodriguez and written by Matthew Negrete and Channing Powell, some regular writers for the show. The next ones are also written by those two guys, or Channing might be a lady, I guess, too. But and then directed by Nicotero. And then we've got Some Guy, episode 4, Dan Liu and David Leslie Johnson. And these are all solidly under 9 million viewers in the U.S. So I think we're kind of in for more of the same, because we failed to resolve any of these action scenes except for the satellite tower. We're kind of still stuck in for more of them, and we might check back and see how Gabriel's doing, but I'm not sure. Either way, HA, I commend you for your patience and bravery in coming back to season 8 with me and getting through it. But this just means that we can finish our vegetables and move on to something that hopefully is less vegetable-like in season 9.
All right. So are we going to do 2 episodes next time or 3?
You want to just really speed it up?
Kind of. Well, no, we'll do 2, and then we'll see how that is. We may have to speed it up though, because I don't know.
16.
These are so rough to get through. But yes, I guess we'll just do 2 at a time, Stuart.
All right, let's try 2 at a time. If we have to, we can do 4. But even with these 2 garbage fires, we managed to talk for
a fair
plenty
amount
of time about them. There's plenty to pick at. Unfortunately, I wish we were saying, Lauren Cohan's speech was so moving, I cried. But no, I don't really care about speeches that much. So
not this speech
right.
anyway.
So let's wrap it up. Next time we'll be back and talking more about season 8, and it's going to get better, I swear. Not season 8 necessarily, but The Walking Dead.
In general.
So you can check in with us on Twitter at ReanimatedPcast, email reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. Our website is reanimatedpodcast.com. If you like spies, you can ask your Alexa Echo thingy to play Reanimated Podcast for you, and it will. You can leave us reviews. You can do all kinds of fun things. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Ciao.